am going to get started. We have still a couple of people just joining, but I'm going to get started because we want to make the most out of this hour. So you're wondering who I am. So I'm Yanni. I am a diversity and inclusion consultant at the Diversifying Group who has partnered with Aldi. So before we get into the panel and all your questions, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Diversifying Group, Aldi, and the format of today, and our panels. So Diversifying Group. So Diversifying Group is a diversity and inclusion services company. It was founded about 7 or 8 years ago by our incredible CEO, Cynthia Davis. Often, before she founded the Diversifying Group, Cynthia often found herself in spaces where she was often the only Black woman or ethnic minority in the room, and these were in places such as boards and in senior positions. So Cynthia wanted to change this. She wanted to make it a place where diversity was accepted and individuals were included, and everyone has the opportunities to be included without barriers. So from her kitchen table, armed with a laptop and pure determination, she created BAME Recruitment, which is now developed into Diversifying Group. And we are doing more than just a recruitment now. We do marketing, consultancy, like me, as a consultant, and events, like here today. So Aldi, a couple of years ago, partnered with the Diversifying Group to help them develop in their diversity and inclusion journey. So we partnered them on looking at the processes, help them recruitment, and now we've also got events like today. So what is today's event? So the theme of today's session is making a career change. Careers are not linear. We go up, down, left, right, we jump diagonally, and sometimes we take a leap of faith and completely change our careers and hop over somewhere else. So today we'll be talking about our transferable skills and past experiences to help us move into a new role, but specifically looking at Aldi Area Career Changer Programme. And today what we're going to do is we're going to discuss that through a very casual panel discussion. I have my own questions and you probably have your own questions. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask my questions and then we'll follow it up with a Q&A session. But don't worry, you don't have to wait until the end of my questions to start asking questions. So if you have a question throughout the panel, just pop it in the chat and then we can get to them at the end of the questions part of me. So who have I brought with me today? So I brought with me 3 panel members from Aldi, as well as the recruitment and diversity and inclusion team from Aldi, who will be on the chat and helping answer some questions throughout the panel discussion today. So what I'm going to do now is bring on our lovely panel members, Charlie, Charlotte, and Dominique. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So welcome to the panel. If I could just ask you just for a quick intro about you and what you do at Aldi, should we just go in alphabetical order of Charlie, Charlotte, and Dominique?
Hi everyone. So my name's Charlie and I've been with Aldi just over 1.5 years now. So I started off training sort of in the London area, so started off in Camden, also worked in some stores just outside, so like St Albans, Stevenage kind of area, and now I look after an area over in Northwest London.
Hi everyone, my name's Charlotte. I've been with Aldi for nearly 4 years and I'm based in the Chelmsford region. I spent just over 2 years as an area manager with stores across Essex and Hertfordshire. And then after that, I spent 1.5 years in logistics. Very recently, I've just moved to another role as a customer experience manager, looking at and measuring customer experience across all stores in England and Ireland. And before Aldi, I worked at Tesco for 10 years in various roles across small and large format stores. So pretty much if you cut me in half, you'd see an apple at my core, retail through and through.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Hi everyone, I'm Dominique. I've been with Aldi for just over 2 years now. I carried out my training in London and now I have an area in Essex. Before joining Aldi, I worked in medical sales for about 2 years, so a complete change going into retail.
Oh, thank you, Dominique. So it's very nice to meet you all. So I'm just going to jump in with the first question. So my first question is, what made you choose Aldi when looking for a new career?
I can answer that one. So for me, I think there were probably two main reasons that I joined Aldi or looked to join Aldi initially. So I firstly loved the no frills approach to the business that Aldi takes. So they've got a massively flat hierarchy. There's not a manager for the sake of having managers. And coming from a similar retail business, so Tesco, they have a manager for everything. So I was quite looking forward to seeing how Aldi could work without those frills and work really efficiently. So that was the first thing that drew me to Aldi. The second thing was that I could see that it was a massively growing business. It was opening stores all over the country 4 years ago, and I really wanted to be a part of that. And now, even 4 years on, we're still opening stores left, right, and centre. So it's super exciting for me to still be part of that growth. And it's probably the reason that some of you are on the call now, because you're seeing that we have got growth opportunities. And hopefully you can see in my short 4 years with Aldi, I've made a couple of moves in my career as well. So there's always that opportunity for growth if you're hungry and if you work for it.
Nice. Thank you, Charlotte. Growth outside and within. Right. Let's go for Dominique. So why did you choose Aldi when looking for a new career?
I chose Aldi because honestly, I got bored in my last role. So I wanted, when I was looking for different roles and opportunities available, I was just looking for something that I wouldn't get bored in and somewhere I thought had a lot of opportunity for development, not even kind of like moving upwards, but as kind of Charlotte's done, taking a lot of sideways steps as well. So just a business that you can get a lot of, yeah, I guess different opportunities in, and I just thought it'd be quite exciting. I wanted a role as well that would be I could work fairly independently in, and that could be challenging on like a day-to-day level. So I've really enjoyed my move, but that was essentially why I moved, because I wanted something that was just exciting.
Yeah, and you can definitely feel the excitement just talking to you now. So that's good.
I'm just quite energetic, sorry.
I love the energy. And Charlie, why did you choose Aldi when looking for a new career?
So I should have mentioned at the start probably. So I've come to Aldi straight from university. So I did a history degree, and I did a year working at British Airways as well, before finishing my studies and then coming over. I think I chose Aldi for slightly, well, similar reasons, but obviously from a different context. So I wanted something that was challenging, and certainly when I was applying for roles whilst I was at university, that was all the feedback and all of everything I was reading about Aldi was that it was challenging, but it was also a really, really rewarding role. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the main thing that drew me over to Aldi, and I'm happy to say that that's definitely true since joining the company. So yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. So all three of you have come from quite different places. So I wanted to explore that just a little bit. So you kind of described what you were doing before, but I'd just like a little bit more. So what were you doing before, and how did you find your switch? So I'm going to go for Dominique first. I want to hear more about this medical.
Yes, so I was working in medical sales for about 2 years after finishing a degree in biology. So essentially what I was doing is going from hospital to hospital, like meeting with consultants and essentially like selling things that you would use for after you've had an operation. So really different to retail. And essentially I think I found the switch relatively smooth, if I'm honest. I think you get a lot of really hands-on training when you join the company. You spend time in stores, you spend time shadowing a mentor. So although I didn't have any experience working in retail, I think the companies set up their like program and their training for the first year to really be applicable to anybody. So it doesn't matter if you come straight out of uni, come from a completely different career, everyone really has the same opportunity to like build up that knowledge level. So I found it fairly smooth. I think the one thing I struggled with, maybe it's just because I'm quite like physically weak, but was working in the store. I just found it a bit hard to start with because it's, you know, long hours, a lot of physical work, and it just wasn't something I had been used to in my previous role. So it was easy to, you know, get onto it, but that was something I just struggled with a little bit at first.
Thank you, Dominique. I can see like when you talk about how you were going around towards, but also you can see that transfer onto Aldi quite clearly. Okay, so Charlie, talk to us about what you're doing before, and then how did you find the switch?
Probably shouldn't go into too much detail about my uni life up in Leeds, but I think definitely coming down into Aldi, I've definitely echo what Dominique said. I think initially like going into what everyone calls your store time. So you spend a few months like getting to learn about the operation. And I think like we'd all agree that's like pretty crucial moving forward at Aldi. Otherwise, you really just would be in the dark with, especially in the area manager role anyway, with a lot of the stuff that goes on. So initially for me, the most difficult thing definitely would just be whilst you're part of an operation like working stock, trying to pick up and learn as much as possible. I'd say that was definitely the hardest thing, but it's just one of those that if you stick with it, you show that you're willing to work hard and persevere. You pick things up along the way, you pick things up in your conversation. So whilst it's the most challenging thing, it's also like the most rewarding part, I'd say, of my time at Aldi so far. And without it, yeah, you definitely struggle with the area manager role. So in terms of switching from uni life, where I was sort of in bed most of the time probably, so being up on your feet, working stock, trying to learn as much as possible, that was definitely the biggest, I guess, like culture shock for me.
Just a curious question. When did you graduate from university?
So I left in 2021, and then I joined out. So I graduated in, was it May, June 2021, and then joined in September.
Wow. Sorry, just one more question on that. How was the switch from basically COVID learning at university to being out and the working world where it's coming out of a COVID period?
Yeah, it was really strange. I think so. When I was working at British Airways, the end of my time at British Airways was when COVID first hit. So I had a bit of that sort of a lot of stuff over Teams, a lot of meetings over Teams. Obviously, not going into the office. To be honest, my personal view was I was quite sick of it, especially university, trying to do everything over Teams. That was why it was quite nice and refreshing actually coming into a working environment where you have to be physically in work. And I don't know, it might be the case for a lot of people on the call today that there's a lot of things going on over Teams. That's definitely the opposite of what life is like at Aldi as an area manager. A big part of your role is being there in person, seeing your teams face to face, and obviously supervising your stores in person as well. So for me, that's something I really enjoy. I want to carry on doing.
Thank you. And Charlotte, so what were you doing before, and how did you find the switch for you?
So I was with Tesco before for 10 years, so quite a big amount of time in a business, and I worked across store operations in various roles across stores. When I first joined Aldi, I was a bit dubious as to how I would sort of fit in, because you kind of being with a company for 10 years, you feel like you know everything, you know everybody, and going into Aldi, I didn't know anything. So I was a bit like a small fish in a massive ocean. And that was quite difficult for me to come into a new business. But it was really great. The training that you get as an area manager is second to none. It is absolutely incredible. You, at any level that you join the business, you have to go through that store training plan. So you literally are a store assistant for a few weeks. You are a store manager for a few weeks, and then you do, of course, your area manager training on top of that. So I think it's brilliant that we get that bottom level feeling as to how it is to operate at that lower level of business, and that gave me the confidence to go, do you know what, I'm a small fish now, but I won't be soon when I know what I'm doing.
Oh, that's a nice analogy, and that's really good for it. Like in terms of inclusion, that's quite an interesting thing because everyone's put on the same level, and like everyone has an equal quality of knowledge. So that's really good to hear. So moving on, I can tell that there's a lot of energy and that you really enjoy being an area manager at Aldi, but what do you love most about being an area manager at Aldi? So I'm gonna throw it to Charlie.
For me, I think definitely would be the independence. So we feed into a director. So you may see you might speak to your director most days, whether it's over the phone, but in person, you may only have like, we call them day outs. So you might see your director once every few weeks in person. So I think definitely the independence you get and the trust that they place in you to make your own decisions and to be accountable for your own actions, definitely. And I think I touched on it earlier, but the variety you get day to day. So obviously you have a broad structure of your week, but I think the day-to-day role, you can get things coming out of the blue every single day. So definitely the variety you get, you can never really get bored in this role. So I'd definitely say those two are the main things I like about the role.
I can see Dominique smiling when you said that. Okay, Charlotte, what do you love about being an area manager?
So when I first joined the area manager program, I absolutely loved the fact that you get so much responsibility pretty much from day one. After you've done that initial sort of training period, you literally have the keys to a store. It's incredible. And then when you get the keys to 3, 4, 5 stores, it's even more incredible. So I absolutely love that. And the autonomy of your week. So as Charlie said, you have a director, but they're sort of just touch base points. Your week is your week. As long as you're doing a mixture of, those evenings, the weekends, those sorts of things, the week is yours to plan however you like. And I loved that.
Wow, that trust from even day one, that's really cool. And finally, Dominique, what do you love about being an area manager?
I'm basically going to echo the other points, but for me, it's definitely the independence that you get from the role from as soon as you start. So I think I find that I can manage my area and my stores just the way that I think is best, and I'm left to my own devices. But obviously I still have the support of my manager, but overall on like a weekly basis, even a monthly basis, I know that I can run things in my own style, which I think is really important, and it makes it, I guess, quite a unique role, and you can build really strong relationships with everybody with everyone that kind of reports to you, because you're independent to build those relationships like how you see fit, and you can plan your stores and plan what you want to achieve with them on like a more personal level. So although you're still following the overall business strategy, you can't completely go rogue and decide you're not going to stock produce, but overall you can kind of lead the business how you see fit.
That's really like, it must be really rewarding to have so much trust and that independence to see as what you feel, and like that's really, really good to hear. And it must be just so rewarding. So I've got a bit of a question that is very much a diversity and inclusion consultant question. So slight bias here. So as a colleague at Aldi, what does diversity and inclusion mean to you? Second part of my question: how do you create an inclusive environment for your teams?
I can start with this one if you want.
Thank you.
So yeah, the first point, like, what does diversity and inclusion mean to me? I think essentially it's like an environment where every member of the team is valued, and like differences are celebrated and seen as strengths rather than things that kind of hinder you. So for me, how I try and create a diverse and inclusive environment is just to try and get to know my teams as much as possible on like a really personal level, and lead as like a compassionate leader. So someone that understands we all come from different walks of life, and that we can use those strengths within our business and kind of all work together. So trying to encourage participation from every member of the team at every level.
Yeah, the inclusion of like making sure that everyone's together.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we go Charlie? Oh, Charlotte? No, Charlotte, yeah, you go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. No, you go.
I kind of build on that. Essentially, exactly as Dominique said, it's the fact of making everyone feel that they're welcome, no matter what their walk of life is. I think for me as well, it was really important for me to see female leadership as something that's quite important, because naturally you do get that in large businesses. You do tend to see the men up there, and that's fine. That's how it's always been. For me, female leadership was something that was really important to me. So to be able to lead my teams, and generally I had store managers that were men, so that was quite interesting to navigate that sort of relationship. But actually it worked really, really well with such a respectful business, and I think as long as you lead with that respect, you generally get it back.
Leading with respect, that's a good message to take on. Charlie? Yeah,
I'll definitely echo that from Charlotte as well. I think the biggest thing I've learned at Aldi is that everything's done on merit. It's not done on like nothing's given out. So definitely it's a merit-led business. I think for me, so what does diversity and inclusion mean? I think if you look at all different areas of the business, we've got very, very diverse teams. I think obviously us being a retailer, you can kind of see that in a lot of the products that we stock now. So our range is expanding. We're getting foods from all different parts of the world, which is great to see. But also the one that we talk a lot about as area managers in our team is like, do we feel comfortable being ourselves? And I think you do see a really, really wide range of area managers. So you see one person might manage their area or have a very different personalities to someone in the other areas in the region. So I'll definitely say that's the biggest thing for me, is just seeing that there's more than one way to do the role, and that's accepted. So that's been really, really good to see.
Yeah, that's another good message. There's more than one way to do a role, and that being accepted. And that's the important thing around that is acceptance, not inclusivity, acceptance as well. Cool. Thank you. So moving on. So all of you had from different backgrounds and different paths, but did you have any worries about moving into being an area manager, changing your careers? And if so, what did Aldi do to help you with that transition? I'm going to start with
that
Charlotte.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So I think naturally when you leave a business, particularly if you've been with them for a significant amount of time like I had, it's obviously going to be quite a scary thing. I was genuinely pretty scared because I left my friends, I left everybody I knew, I left a business that I knew. But with Aldi, the recruitment process was really great. It was so straightforward and really just helped me to cement myself within a new business. So I was given like a new welcome pack at my contract signing. It had my contract, all of the information that you could possibly need was in this pack. It just made me feel that Aldi really cared about their people and they actually knew business, so they knew what worked. So for me, I think the whole introduction to the business was really good, and that just kind of set up the rest of my career with Aldi.
Yeah, it's like you said, you had like the trust from the beginning from our earlier conversation. So it's really, really good to hear. So yeah, let's go to Dominique.
Yes, I mean, in terms of changing career and the transition, I was more worried that I would be like constantly playing catch up because I hadn't come from a retail background. So that was my main concern, and a switch from medical sales, and I'd studied biology. So I felt like I was always in my comfort zone. Going to retail was just something completely different, and I had absolutely no experience. And that was the thing that worried me the most. But as we've kind of gone over already, the training program is so thorough that after a year going through that whole program, at the end of it you feel like really experienced and that you have all of the knowledge you need to do your role. So I think the training program is set up for anybody to succeed in the role and to feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, nice message of like anyone to succeed. That's really good. And Charlie, so you've come up like you're from university, and for me, who I went to university, and when I went into the working world, I felt like I was dropped in a massive ocean. So how did Aldi support you in your transition?
I'll definitely echo like the training program. Everyone speaks about it all the time, but it genuinely is really, really, really good. It's so thorough. Your mentors, your director, they leave no stone unturned. So you always can get feedback. You're always going to understand where you are, where your development areas are. But there's also, I think, just a wider understanding of there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to pick up. But it's in the business's own interest to get you up to speed as quickly as possible. So they do everything they can to support you, whether that's extra training sessions, whether that's a bit more, intense, just not hand holding, but just going forward, feeding back, giving you as much information as possible to get you up to speed. So they really do everything they can to help you join.
Yeah, so it's really good at confidence building. So let's talk a little bit about the training then, because you've all mentioned it and all been really vouchful of it. So what training did Aldi and what support actually did Aldi provide you and with to grow and excel in your role as area manager?
I can take this one if you want. So
yeah, sure.
I think the biggest thing, as I said earlier, was probably the store training initially. For our role, it's an operationally led role, so you really have to understand what's going on in the stores, how to act in different circumstances. So the store training is the biggest part of your training when you join Aldi. And then on top of that, now Aldi's going through a kind of business transformation, a wider business transformation. So there are lots of different teams that can sort of jump in at any given moment and give you a bit more specific, I don't know, feedback, training, information on certain areas that you need development on. So, as I said earlier, every corner's covered. It's really, really hard for things to fall through or for you to have any knowledge gaps. So they really do in terms of store operations side of things. There's constant refresher sessions, all the rest to make sure you're up to speed. So that's really, really positive.
So always having like an opportunity for you to thrive. It's really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Charlotte.
So I really liked the fact that Aldi had a really hands-on approach to training. It wasn't like you were just giving a book and you just have to read through that book and kind of it wasn't like that at all. It was absolutely getting stuck in there within your stores and really learning from doing, and I found that really, really helpful. I think it's great as well that you have a mentor when you join from the business, and day one you literally have a mentor that you can touch base with at any point in the day. You have regular weekly catch-ups. There's structured and not non-structured bits. So I think having that hands-on approach and people around you, as Charlie said, like absolutely second to none, and there is support everywhere that you need it. And we have an HR team as you know, but in terms of the actual day-to-day operation, you have a mentor, so you are covered for everything should you need it.
Yeah, that sounds really good as well. Just thinking about, Charlotte, your experience of being 10 years in one place, and then you had to move away, so you had your support structures were completely different, and having that from day one, that's really, really positive, and I can see that growth. And Dominique.
Yeah, for me, I think the thing I found most useful and supportive is having a mentor. So I had a few different mentors throughout my training period, but mainly because all of my mentors kept getting promoted. So it was probably a good thing. But I would say that, yeah, for me, mentor was really important. Someone that kind of oversees your training throughout the training period. But my last mentor is someone that I still touch base with all the time, someone that's like become a friend in the company, and I can always go to and ask for advice. So it's not like once your training's finished, that's it. There's still a lot of support from everybody, but definitely your mentor like throughout your years at Aldi.
Yeah, can always grow, and love to see that you get recognised and promoted. So well done to your mentors. And final question before I move on to the Q&A section of this. So what advice would you give for people who are looking to do a career change?
For people that are looking to do a career change, obviously I did one and it was a huge change. I definitely haven't, looked back with any regret. So I would say the one bit of advice would be just to not underestimate the experience you have, even if you don't have any retail experience and don't really understand how supermarkets run. Neither did I, and it's fine. You'll have a lot of support along the way to learn and to grow within your role. I say as long as you're quite resilient and have a positive attitude, then anyone can do well in Aldi.
Thank you. Maybe move on to Charlie.
Yeah, although I didn't obviously do a career change, I'd echo what Dominique said. I think if I think you got to back your ability, and don't underestimate the fact that if you don't have any retail experience, like you still will have a lot of transferable skills over to Aldi. Ultimately, if you're willing to commit yourself to the role, willing to learn, and willing to understand your opportunities to develop, I think you'll be set well at Aldi.
Thank you. And finally, Charlotte.
I would say if you're looking for a career change, just do it. You won't know unless you try. And ultimately, I took a massive risk and came from my comfort zone. I was set up for life with Tesco, but I decided to take that risk, and I am definitely happier than I've ever been. So yeah, take the risk. If you don't try, you don't get.
I love that. I love that message. And also, like, risks and discomfort are a way to grow. Okay, so that's like the end of like my questioning. So I'm going to open up to the audience, the floor. And what questions do you have? Just pop, if you have any on the chat, I'll have to go flick through. But yes, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and then we can answer them live. Can you describe what a day in the life of an area manager looks like?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I think that probably we all kind of need to answer this question because we all plan our diaries really differently. For me, I'd say I can't really describe a day, but I can describe like a rough week because each day is quite different. On a Monday and Tuesday, I usually have catch-ups with all of my store managers just to understand a reflection of last week. We can talk about all of the KPIs, talk about any people bits that I need to be aware of, and just a chance for us to touch base and keep them motivated, and for us to have a a bit of an understanding of what's happening in the store at the moment, and is there anything that we need to focus on. And then the rest of my week I usually try and keep fairly open, but my diary does pack up quite a lot. So as an area manager, you usually have like additional areas of responsibility as well, so that takes up some of my time. There's a real range. At the moment I look after key events for the region, so at the moment that's planning how Easter's going to look for all of the stores within Chelmsford. That takes up some time, and then there's always time for things like training, any like webinars, training my team, but also getting trained myself. I'd say that the end part of my week is usually dedicated to doing any admin tasks, and also having a bit of like variety in my diary, whether that's sitting down with different members of the team to make sure everyone's happy, or I guess looking into different reports that I have available to me to drive my stores forward. I don't know, other people might have a completely different week to me, so I will pass over to Charlotte and Charlie.
Yeah, I can go next. So I haven't been an area manager for a couple of years, but I can definitely talk you through what I did at the time. So very similar to Dominique, I think it is pretty structured at the start of the week, because you need to touch base with your leaders to make sure that they're on the right track for the week, make sure that there's no silly mistakes from the week before and that you can learn from them, etc. So yeah, touch base on a Monday and Tuesday with your store managers. Then I would generally work either a Saturday or a Sunday, just because that worked for my life and my family time. So if I was working a Saturday or a Sunday, I would generally just do recruitment for the whole day. So I'd book in some contract signings, I'd book in interviews, etc., just because that's naturally when people are available outside of work. So I'd do that generally at the weekend. And then in those other couple of days during the week would just be admin. So whether that is, exactly as Dominique said, looking at reporting, looking at upskilling your colleagues, that sort of thing. So admin during the middle part of the week, recruitment at the end of the week, and at the start just catch ups and touch bases with my store managers.
Like to hear the flexibility. That's accommodating for everyone's different lifestyles. We're all messy like people. We do lots of different things. So I love the flexibility. Yeah. Charlie.
Yeah, I think exactly the same as Charlotte and Dominique. I think it really does depend on like where your area is at the time, what's like really important. So like you can have two completely different looking weeks. Just off the top of my head, I think the only things maybe that not been mentioned is like you may have to go to the RDC. So like each region has like a central warehouse where all the stock will be distributed from. So you may have to head over to the RDC, which sometimes can be a bit of a drive away. Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the other main things. And then it could be just like ad hoc events that come up once a month, once a week, like things you have to check weekly, monthly. Yeah, it really does vary, but I'd definitely say that's one of the big perks about the role. And we do also have the option to work a tiny bit from home as well. You just have to be open and clear with that with your director.
Yeah. Clear communication is essential, especially in D&I. So we had a question / comment in the chat, so I've put this into a more of a question format. Thinking about your past career paths and your past roles, what transferable skills did you bring to your role and as an area manager? So I'll give you time to think on that one, because even when I think about my transferable skills, I go,
For me, I think just being really, really organised. I think as an area manager, you have to organise your own diary. You're really completely in charge of your own time. No one really tracks what you're doing, but there's a lot to do. So in my previous role, I spent a lot of time having to just book in meetings, work around other people's diaries, and be really, really motivated to have a busy day and have a busy week. So I'd say that's one thing, just being super organized and motivated. And then in terms of transferable skills, I actually think it's a lot of more of a personality than skill based. I'd say in terms of personality, you just need to be, as I said before, really resilient. As long as you're positive and motivated and just think whatever challenges you face, you can get through them somehow, then you'll be a good area manager.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think it is very like personality based. So for me anyway, I'm always like quite a calm person, probably too calm in some circumstances, but that works for me personally. But someone else might have a completely different approach. So as we were saying, like everyone manages their own area in different ways. I think so long as you have like the core characteristics of wanting to work hard, able to be organized and like take lots of different information, condense that, and then pass out what's relevant useful for your teams. I'm sure there'll be other ones that I've missed off, but I'd say that's one of the core ones that I think anyway is like a core trait that every area manager needs. But the rest is like very much personality and individual.
Thanks, Charlie.
I think I'd pretty much just echo that. 3 key things, I think, for me. Organisation is absolutely key because you do get a lot of things thrown your way. It is absolutely manageable, but you do need to plan your diary. So organisation. Second one is resilience, as it's been mentioned. You will get knockbacks. I got knockbacks. I know retail, but I had several knockbacks, and you just need to jump forwards from them. And then the third one is having a customer service approach. You don't have to have worked in retail. Every sort of business has some sort of customer. That might not be a paying customer. It could be over the phone or anything, but having customer service sort of a thought process will definitely put you in a good stead with Aldi.
So what was that? That was resilience, organisation, and customer forward, I'd say. Yeah. Thank you for that. So before the panel started, we had a person who couldn't unfortunately attend, but they did actually send us their question, which was very prepared and organised. So what do working hours as an area manager for a typical week look like? And how many days in a week do you tend to work, and what are the typical daily hours? So I know it varies, but yeah.
I think maybe if I start on that one. So when I joined 4 years ago, I would say that the area manager role was quite tough because I was working 60 plus hours a week. That genuinely, I was working 60 hours plus a week for a minimum of 6 months. I did that. So that was really, really tough. I had stores over an hour and a half away from my house. So it wasn't an easy time, but you know, you kind of have to do these things sometimes if you really want to succeed within a business. We have had a bit of a change with our working hours, and we've moved towards more of a sort of work-life balance type approach, which is absolutely needed because we need to keep our people happy within our business if they're going to stay with us for a long time. So our actual contract now has been reduced to a 45-hour contract, which is amazing. It was 50, but naturally do more when you're training, I think, just because you really want to get everything right. But 45 hours is generally the hours that you should work, and it's across evenings, weekends, whenever you're needed with the business.
Yeah, so 45 hours. I think in terms of the days, each region sets up their own managers in cover partnerships. So you may be in a cover partnership with like 3 or 4 other people, depending obviously on the circumstances of the region. What that basically means as a rule of thumb is one of you within that 4 or 5 has to be working every day of the week. So naturally you will work some weekends. There are some things also that we have to do over a weekend. So I don't know if people have heard of inventories or stock takes before, but we do those, for example, on a Sunday evening. But yeah, roughly speaking, we work depending on what's needed for the area, 45 hours a week, sometimes more. And it can be over the weekend. It can vary.
Cool. So this probably isn't a question for the panel, but maybe the D&I team. What is Aldi doing to be a diverse and inclusive workplace? And tell us a bit more about your journey there.
Fab, so I'll take that. Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Manager here at Aldi. So we do have a dedicated D&I team, and we have a dedicated strategy around all things diversity and inclusion, which is known as the Embrace strategy here at Aldi. Within that, we are doing an absolute range of things to make sure that our working environment is a culture where everybody can bring their true self to work, where everybody is included, welcomed and valued, and most importantly, heard. Some of those things that we're doing are we're always listening to our people. So that includes us holding listening groups. So over the last couple of years, we've held listening groups on race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity. We carry out pulse surveys, and we've recently carried out an employee engagement survey just to gauge where we're at and to make sure that our strategy is very insights and data driven, and that we're always proactively moving forwards to make sure that our culture is inclusive for everybody. We're also making sure that we're all learning, we're all on a D&I journey, and we want to make sure that we take everybody on that journey with us. And so we've done a range of different training. So over the last few years, we have trained all of our senior leaders, from managing directors and the CEO right the way through to our executive managers, which includes our area manager team, on Embrace training. So that is a comprehensive D&I training day that everybody attended. We've also got a range of e-learning modules from which include things such as disability awareness. We host webinars, so lots of things such as allyship, menopause, to make sure that we're giving our leaders the skills to handle any circumstance that's thrown at them and ensure that they can accommodate all of their people, no matter where they are, or whatever circumstances they face. We've also got our My Embrace Hub, which is our one-stop shop for all things D&I. So there we have our Embrace calendar to see all the key events that are taking place across the year. There's TED Talks, there's webinars, there's articles and get-to-know stories about different people across our business. Alongside that, we've also launched a range of different support guides over the last few years, be that from menopause to gender transition. We've attended Pride events. So yeah, there's absolutely tons of different things going on to make sure that we're on the front foot when it comes to D&I, and we're always looking and we're always listening to our people to make sure that everybody feels included and valued here at Aldi. Sorry, I feel like that was a very long answer, but hopefully we covered off lots of different things that we are doing to make sure that it is an inclusive business for all.
Yeah, thank you, Gabby. That was really interesting to hear, and like it's so much activity going on for D&I. For me as a diversity inclusion consultant, that's it gets my brain sparking basically. So got a couple more questions. So this could be a mix of people. So what is the attrition rate for area managers? And it's quite a good one for Charlotte, actually. What do area managers generally do after a few years?
So I'm not sure, the attrition one, probably HR can help me with that.
Yeah.
I know it's got better since I joined. It's definitely got better. People want to be here now more than they did years ago when we were a hard business, but we're more soft now, which is nice. Can you say that second question again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem. What do area managers generally go on to do after a few years?
A few years. So it completely depends on your wants and needs. If you are happy being an area manager, you can be an area manager for 10 years. I know area managers of 10 years and they're perfectly happy. It works for their lifestyle outside of work. It works for their family. So you can absolutely do that for however long you want to. There are other options, of course. You can get promoted if that's something that you want to do. If you really want to progress within the business, there are those opportunities there. You may well have to relocate. So that's something to consider if you do want to go upwards, but that is possible. There's also loads of project roles available. Again, you may have to move and relocate for that, but if you want those opportunities, you can absolutely do it. You have performance reviews every year with your boss. So that's the sort of time that you talk about the moments that are really important to you. And if development is something that is really important to you, that could be upwards or sideways. As long as you're talking about it to your leader, it is self-led. But if you do that, then there are those opportunities there.
Wow, thank you. That sounds like an opportunity.
Jump in here, Yanni, if that's all right. So
yeah, no problem.
I joined the business as an area manager back in 2014. So when I joined, I had an area over in Cheshire and the Welsh coast. I did that role for 4 years before joining a project team, where I was responsible for all things customer experience. So it's a very strategic role, where I had a really good opportunity to learn more about the broader business, have a strategic impact, and also work alongside other countries within the Aldi South Group to help define the global customer experience strategy. That also opened doors for me to then move into a HR role. So in 2022, I then took a permanent role within HR as a HR manager. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to start off, get a really good understanding of the operation and move through the business into different departments. That said, we have, as Charlotte says, there's plenty of colleagues that join Aldi and have served 6, 7, 8 years as area managers, if that's something that people would like to do for the longer term.
Thank you. And there are a couple like practical questions that I have for recruitment. So I don't know, whoever wants to just take this, so just jump in. One of them also like the attrition rate for area managers.
I can't tell you the attrition rate at the minute. I think we'd have to go and look for them figures. But the one about application process I can answer for you. So hello everyone, my name's Charlotte and I am 1/3 of the area manager and placement recruitment team. So our application process is 5 stages. So you have the initial application, which will ask you, you'll have a couple of different multiple choice questions in there, and then you have 3 questions that you need to answer. Couple of hints and tips about them. Take your time to answer them, sort of proofread your application, should I say, before you do submit. The second stage of our application process is a video interview. So you'll be invited to complete a video interview, which will take you around 10 minutes to complete. And again, it's just a series of questions, but this time it pops up on the screen for you. You have so long to think about your answer, and then it's so long to answer it. Following video interview, you then move to our psychometric online testing, that is sent from a partner of ours, and it's just sort of your generic psychometric testing. Following that, if you're successful, you then will attend an individual assessment with a member of the area manager and placement recruitment team. These are currently virtual on MS Teams. And then following this, the final stage of the process is a final interview with the managing director of the region that you have chosen to apply to.
Oh, thank you. So just more quite practical questions. How many area managers do you hire each year, and when does the recruitment drive start?
So we recruit around 100 area managers a year. That is probably increasing a little bit with the business like growing and continuously growing. I think as the panel have mentioned, as you make, you progress, and whether it's a sideways move or international secondments, it sort of opens the door for more opportunities for people to come and join us. And we currently do recruit around 100 area managers a year. Our application window is open now for our area manager career changer role. If you go onto our recruitment website and you go to the About Us page, it will show you a map of our regions. So we currently are recruiting for all of our 11 regions across the UK, and that map will show you exactly which region covers where.
Thank you. And is there a closing date on that?
There isn't, no. So we, as our regions, we will reach out and ask how many area managers they want. As we fill those requirements, we will then switch off until the start of the next recruitment season. It's a little bit different for our career changer. If I'm honest, we do actually see that our career changer role stays on the majority of the year, or it may only close for a few months at a time. But we only close when those roles are filled. And we're currently recruiting for all 11 regions at the minute.
Okay, thank you. So I think, yeah, so my colleague Steph has already put that in the chat, so head on over. So as a roundup, what's your one key takeaway from today, and your one final piece of advice? That could be from anyone. Well, everyone.
So I would say my only piece of advice really is, if you are thinking about taking a career move, just do it. It's very likely, if you're thinking about the move already, then there's probably reasons you want to leave the business that you're in. So have a look at Aldi's website. It might not be for you, but you have a look, because it's very likely that we'll be able to slot you into our ever-growing business.
Great piece of advice.
I would definitely just say that the area manager role that we're in is a really, really rewarding role. It's something that I really, really enjoy and hope to carry on doing for a long time moving forward. So if you had any doubts about the role, hopefully we've been able to clear those up today. But hopefully we've got across like the independence and the variety that you get day to day in the role, because that is such a big part of it, and it's something that I think we will really, really enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, from me, I would just say don't let your kind of current role and experience hold you back from applying. Just apply and see what happens. There's so much of a range of experience and a range of career backgrounds within the area manager team at the moment. So really, it's open to anyone and everybody.
So that brings us basically to a close. So thank you to our lovely panelists. So thank you to Charlie, Charlotte and Dominique. And thank you to the recruitment and D&I team. And thank you to the audience for joining us and also asking your questions. So like I said, Steph has put a link to the programme in the chat. So head on over there. And thank you, Steph, for holding this panel today. And if you have any questions, please click onto the links in the chat, and Steph will also be putting in an email for you to email any further questions. So yeah, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.